Hello there. Good evening. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're all doing fantastic. We are here and we are live with another episode of the Ferret 64 live show. That's right, live podcast. And so far, it's been a pretty busy week since I last talked to y'all, and it's just there's just more and more keeps piling up. Today, I got 3 news articles from today only. Like, that's pretty crazy. And we have other things coming up as well. I am Yemi the Ferret. We are going to boot up this podcast episode. Today we'll be talking about Forza, Invincible, the hype surrounding a lot of these games that I'm just not interested in right now. And we also have a plenty of news and things to go over here. Like Hideo Kojima, he did something pretty fucking stupid if you ask me. Something with AI, of course. Steam Deck prices have been raised on the OLED model. We saw the first footage of something running in Unreal Engine 6. Warhorse Studios has a couple announcements. There's a couple games shutting down. And we got some showcases on the way. But of course, we're going to start off with talking about Forza today, and then we'll move into whatever else. But thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you all enjoy. Sit back, relax, and let's talk about some Forza, huh? Okay. So we got Forza playing in the background. This footage comes from Game Riot. Love the people at Game Riot. I don't know who they are. I'm just saying that. Right now they're creating a character, but they'll get to the game itself in a little bit. So let me start off by saying Forza is not a series that I absolutely unequivocally love. I've played a lot of the games because they are at their core still arcade racing games, and that's what I like in my racing games. I like a little bit of that arcade feel to them, and Forza, even though it does have the simulation elements like tuning your car, putting decals on, stuff like that, it still plays very much like an arcade racer, all the way down to the rewind feature making a return for this game as well. So that's just me starting off by saying, yeah, not huge on the Forza series in general. I don't think I've finished a Forza game because usually I play, 10 hours or so and go, yeah, that's about it for me, and then I pack it up and move on to the next thing. And that might happen with Forza Horizon 6. I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see. Because right now I'm very much enjoying the game. I think that in general, Forza Horizon 6 is definitely doing everything that I expected to do, and it's running pretty well. I'm playing it on my Xbox Series S, which obviously is not the optimal way to play it, but it runs fine, so there's really no problem there. They've optimized the game very well for the Series S, which is something that I didn't think that I was going to be saying about a lot of Xbox games, but here we are, because Forza's running really good, and I'm still using my Forza controller from Forza Horizon 5, which is one of my favorite controllers that I own. It's like a see-through, like yellow with a splash of like blue and pink on the front, with the joysticks being blue and pink and stuff like that. I think I think for the most part, Forza does a good job of just kind of like throwing lots of different vehicles at you, making sure that the races feel unique from each other, at least. There's a few games out there like Gran Turismo and Dirt and stuff like that, where a lot of those games are going to start to feel very samey as you're playing them, because a lot of it's just like, okay, here's another track to loop around or whatever, or learn this track, play it 50 times to learn the track, and then boom, bada bing, you're good to go. Forza is very much like, hey, we're going to go out of the bounds of regular racing. like you still have your closed circuit tracks like that are on pavement, but then they also have these tracks that go cross country. You're driving through cornfield, well, not cornfields, but you're driving through fields and through forests, and you're doing jumps, and you're driving through stadiums, and they've built up like all these rafters for you to drive on as well, and that's the kind of thing that I enjoy about Forza, and the one of the things that kind of sets it apart from the other regular racing games that are out there. Now, do I wish there was power ups and stuff with this game? I don't know, maybe, but that's not the vibe they're going for, obviously. But there's a little bit of me that's like, yeah, I miss like Blur. If you don't know what Blur is, it's a racing game where you had like power ups like rockets and boosters and healing and stuff like that. But it had a very realistic look to it. So it ended up kind of being like a Mario Kart clone, but being much more related to something like Forza or like Burnout, maybe even too. And that's the other thing as well. This game series has always reminded me of like Stuntman and Burnout in a lot of ways. Like, even though you don't crash your other people's vehicles and your vehicle and stuff like that, there are elements of those games that kind of eke their way into the experience. Obviously, Forza has been running for a long time, but I can't help but see the similarities between something like Stuntman and Forza, because essentially Stuntman gives you points for driving close to people, driving in the opposite lane, having near misses, doing drifting and e-brake drifting, and all those different things, following director's orders as well, of course. And that is in Forza. You have drifting, you get XP for drifting and doing 180s and passing people and scraping against cars and having near misses and driving in the opposite lane and destroying things in the environment. Like, they give you XP for all this stuff, which makes it a lot more fun too. It makes it so I'm not just driving on the road, like I'm driving off the road, or I'm driving into this plaza with a ton of things to destroy just to get a little bit of extra XP. And sometimes when the songs are playing, they'll give you double XP, which is nice. So you do even more carnage, you do even more destruction, you do even more crazy things with your car. Of course, you get XP for just driving well too. Like, that's of course a thing. Yeah, I mean the XP gains very, very reminiscent of stuff like Forza and Burnout in that way, where they're giving you points simply because you are doing cool things with your vehicle. And also, like, yeah, the amount of vehicles in this game is pretty astronomical, and a lot of them are pretty easy to obtain. You earn in-game currency from completing challenges, visiting new places, getting wheel spins on the lottery machine. I love gambling. Winning, of course, winning races and stuff like that too. So you get all this money from doing those things, and you can purchase new vehicles, or you can just find them in the environment as well and purchase them, which is my preferable way to do it. It reminds me of a Lego game, funny enough, like just finding a car in the world and buying it, like buying a Lego character in the plaza, right? So, I mean, yeah, the amount of cars is pretty nice in the game. I mean, they all don't drive differently, I will say. I mean, obviously you can tune them to your preferences, but I mean, as a person who's not a gearhead, like, I'm not over here going, yes, the Chevy Corolla just drives so much better than the Ford Focus. I don't know. I picked the car that I think looks the best, or might be, or one that I've been using a lot, right? I'm not over here like going, actually they got the motor sound of the whatever. It's a Toyota Corolla. I apologize. They got the motor sound of the blah 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 wrong. Like, I'm not here the fucking pick teeth or whatever. If the car drives nice, I'm fine. If the car looks cool, I'm probably gonna use it once or twice, right? I mean, there's a couple of cars that definitely don't drive the same as others, like the Warthog from Halo, which is a given, or the DeLorean. But these are like special cases. But a lot of the cars, in the same classes, like sports cars or four-wheel cars, stuff like that, they kind of drive very similarly in their respective places. So it's not like this super big deal that there's so many cars in the game in general. But it is cool to have so many cars and so many brands here in the game. And of course, it's all geared towards Japan because the game is in Japan. So you have a lot of Japanese vehicles or vehicles that are popular in Japan sneaking their way into the game as well. Ones that you wouldn't really see otherwise. One of my favorite things about Forza is the fact that they do put in a lot of just like regular commercial vehicles that aren't necessarily for racing or whatever, right? So you have like pickup, these like, rinky-dink pickup trucks and cars and stuff like that, and they actually design races around them, which is fun as well. I love driving around like just a regular box truck or whatever in a race and winning. I think it's such like a little such a fun thing that they do in these games. They do these like little special events and stuff like that. And I guess that does lead me into the fact that like the open world and the open map on this one is very well fleshed out. There's a lot of different environments to get to. There's a lot of different types of events to go to. A lot of them are similar to what we had in the last Forza game, but I do feel like because the last Forza game was so heavily inspired by Hawaii, it was really a one-trick pony, right? You got the Hawaiian tropical feel to it, right? And in this one, there are quite a few different environments that you race in, including but not limited to fields, city tracks, snowy mountains, curving landscapes like Tokyo Drift. If you love Tokyo Drift, you're probably going to like this game because there's a section that is literally one for one the racetrack of the ending of Tokyo Drift, which obviously is a real road. So it's not like that big of a deal, but also at the same time, like it's fun because you kind of get that like Ratatouille moment where you go, oh, I remember this from Tokyo Drift, right? So the map is designed very well. I think it's very easy to just get from one point to the next point. Obviously, you can just kind of go wherever you want to. You don't even have to stick to roads, but if you do go on roads, it's very easy to go where you want to go. You don't have to worry about, really planning your route. There's this new GPS system. It's not really new, but it's like new, updated for the game. That essentially just guides you to where you need to go. And it's not like a huge deal, but it is something that's there that I appreciate, right? Just being guided to your location, which obviously, like I said, it's in other games as well. They just kind of like, did some stuff to it to make it a little bit nicer, I guess. It's hard to really tell between the two because I don't even really remember what the GPS was like in the last game, but whatever. And the other thing too is like you have all these new social events to do as well. Like there's social races and there's like car meetups and stuff like that. Like you can do these things with just random people in the game. Now, personally, I haven't run into anyone who really wants to do these things. Anytime that I press like the button to say hi to people, they don't say hi back. Usually, I think I've had a response from 2 people, a grand total of 2 people, and it was funny because they were like literally at the same time. It wasn't even like 2 separate occasions. It was just 2 people in this small village area, and I said hi in the little chat thing, and they said hi back. They actually added my name. They said, hi, Yemi the Ferret, and I was like, okay, cool. And then they left the area, and which is, kind of par for the course, but there are a lot of social elements in this game, which means that if you are playing with other people, you're not going to feel left out, because like, oh, there's only 4 people allowed in this race, or oh, there's only 3 parking spots here. Like, no, there's enough for everyone usually. And it's a pretty cool game to just kind of hang out and play and mess around with. The other fun thing too is like if you have a lot of people who play Forza on your friends list, the AI race cars will have their names over them and what car they used on that race. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Sometimes they can be jerks though. Like I was racing against Callus and Vivid Chim, and Callus was like pushing me off of the map, like off of the racetrack. And it's not even really Callus; it's just an AI bot, with his name. But he was being a bit of a stinker. He was trying to push me off the course. So I had to do a pit maneuver on him to get him out of my way. But it was very funny because it's like I know it's not Callus, but at the same time, like I had to do a pit maneuver on Callus to get his AI to stop fucking with me, right? Speak of the devil, and he is here. So yeah, that's another fun aspect of the game. Like, even if you don't have a lot of people who play Forza, you still have these AI opponents, or you can just go online and do PvP stuff as well. That's also valid too. A lot of times you have to do the race on a closed circuit before you can open up to multiple people too. So that's also a thing. I don't know why I'm yawning. It's only it's only 6 o'clock. I apologize. Yeah, you all are just boring me today. Um, what else do I need to say? The soundtrack in this game, great. I've been listening to mostly the heavier radio station. I think it's called like XD or something like that. And there's a good mix of artists, which I have talked about before. I think I went through like a general list of all the artists featured. And when you're on a specific channel for a long time, you do start to hear the repeats over and over again. Like Baby Metal's popping up like 5 times in an hour, or A Day to Remember, or a lot of the popular songs that people are gonna listen to are kind of in the forefront, and then the other ones are kind of sprinkled in. Of course, I have been switching around to different radio stations, of course. But I mean, look, if I go to any other radio station, then the experience becomes something completely different, and I'm not like super crazy about that. Like I'm not going to switch to the pop rock station, right, or the more general rock station. I need something that makes me feel something while I'm playing. It's just too. I mean, well, I won't say it's too bad, but it is like kind of like, wow, I really wish this XD station had even more than what it has right now, because there's some deep cuts in here like Ginger and Joji and stuff like that, but there's really not like the heavy stuff. And I just wish there was an entire radio station of like, hey, we got all the heavy shit on here for the people who like the heavy music. But instead it's like a couple of heavy songs with a little bit of dirty vocals, and then the rest of it's just like kind of more general rock or heavy rock stuff like that. Which I'm not going to complain about, because the metal genre doesn't get a lot of representation in media anyway. But it is something that's like, it's still like I do wish that there was still just an entire station of metal acts, and not just like a couple of songs cherry picked that are going to be the most popular or the most easy to drive to, right? I don't have YouTube Premium, folks. Sorry. We get ads. We get ads sometimes. If I notice that there's an ad, I'll skip it. But it's hard. It's hard to tell. So, what else is there to say about Forza? I mean, it looks good. That's another thing. Like, it looks good. I think for a racing game, that's got to be par for the course, right? You got to have good-looking graphics. If you don't have good-looking graphics, then you're kind of missing an entire part of this game. Because one of the things about racing games, at least with simulation/arcade games, is like, how good can we make this look? How much can we push the console or the PC's limitations to pump out the best-looking graphics? And I think that this game, in general, looks very good. Reflections would look nice. Water and stuff like that looks really good. Like, especially when like your car is wet from being splashed on by a puddle, or it's raining outside. I think that they really improved how the cars look when they're wet, when they're dirty. It has like that Death Stranding 2 thing, where if your car is dirty from mud or whatever on the bottom and it looks kind of brownish, if you go through like a river or a lake, wherever the water touches in that river is what cleans off of your car. And the same thing kind of happens in Death Stranding 2, where it's like you're playing as Norman Reedus' character, and Sam, and you are really dirty from like a dust storm, and you walk through a river. Well, now like the bottom weight part of your character is like clean almost. All the dirt kind of comes off. So it's kind of like the similar thing here, which I think is really nice. I think that really adds a nice realistic touch to the game, and it also kind of is like, most people probably aren't going to notice that because you're just driving cars around, right? Who really cares at the end of the day? I care because even though graphics aren't the most important thing ever, and a lot of people ignore graphics entirely, which is kind of, in my opinion, I think they're lying, right, when they say don't care about graphics at all. But that's just me. That's just me calling out nobody. In a game like this, where it's a racing game, it is important to me what the game looks like, because this is with all the peace and love in the world. Racing games don't got a lot going on for them, for me personally, right? I play them, I enjoy them when I do play them for the most part, but there's a lot of it that's like, hey, you're just holding down the right trigger and maybe pressing LT a couple times to drift or stop, right? Maybe a couple times you're pressing A to use the E brake as well. But for the most part, you're wiggling the joystick, you're holding down RT to drive. um, and at the end of the day, is there really more that I need from this game? No, but if I was playing this game with its basic control scheme and ease of navigation, and it looked like a PS3 game, but it came out in 2026. Like, yeah, I would be a bit more critical of the graphic style. I would definitely say, like, hey, there's not much going on here control wise. Why is the game looking like it's been run through a washing machine, right? So there is some credence to judging this game by its looks, because these simulation arcade games in this style, that is what they're going for. Gran Turismo, you're literally driving around a track for 200 laps at some point, right? You got to look at something. You got to look at something, anything. So that's where like the realistic graphics come in, where you can see the reflections in the cars and the mud on your tires and the blah 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 blah, right? And it all looks good. It all looks very good. So at the end of the day, I think that this is definitely worth playing. I think a lot of games are overpriced now. I think Forza is one of those games where it is a bit overpriced. I think they're selling it for $70 base, and I don't like. I see the value, obviously, because it is a fun experience. It's got a nice open world. There's a lot going on, but at the same time, I can't justify saying like definitely go out and buy this for $70. It's going to be worth every penny. I don't think it's worth every penny in that case. 60, sure. 50, I feel better about that. But of course, if you have Xbox Game Pass, you can play with no extra cost, and that's like $25 a month. I actually re-upped my Game Pass just to play Forza, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Forza is a series that I go and I play when it comes out. Okay, it's kind of like my Call of Duty of racing games, right? I play if Forza comes out, I play it, right? And even though I might not play Call of Duty in its next iteration, of course, it's still like one of those things where it's like it comes out, I know it's probably just like garbage game, but I play it. Forza, I feel like is very different from Call of Duty. Obviously, like I know it's owned by Xbox and whatever, but we've had a very good amount of time between the last Forza game 1, 2. This Forza game does feel different. It definitely has a different vibe to it, a little bit. It has a little bit of a different vibe to it with Japan and stuff like that. And I also feel like there's more quality control with Forza here. So it's not an apt comparison, but I'm just saying, like, for first person shooters, like Call of Duty comes out, no matter how I feel about the series, I usually play that. Same thing with Forza, where it's like, even though I didn't really like the Forza that was in the UK, based in the UK, I think that was 4. I still enjoy the games. I still want to play them. And even though I've never beaten a Forza game, because by the time I get to that final like wave of races to go through, I'm kind of like burnt out. I still enjoy playing it for what it is, and that is an arcade racing experience at its core, even though it has the simulation options to it. So. I would give this a thumbs up. I'm not giving it 2 thumbs up, because I do think it is a little overpriced, and the map is a bit condensed from what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a bit of a larger map, but for everything else that I've mentioned, it all feels good. There's a lot going on here in terms of like content and being able to interact and do stuff with your friends or just random people online. Like there's all the stuff is here that you kind of want and expect from a Forza game. So very happy, and I'm very actually pleased with the game itself. Customization is off the charts. I just I love doing all that stuff. Now the character creation does leave a little bit to be desired, because it kind of feels more like Madden, where it's like, okay, here's a template, then you choose the hair and the skin color and whatever, and then you move on. And it's not like you're gonna see your character every time you are sitting down for the game. Well, I guess you are, but you're not going to see the character game, minute by minute in the game, right? But if you, of course, win a race and you get on the podium, then you see your character. I still don't know where to go to customize my character's like clothing. I've scrolled through the menus like 3 times. I don't know where to go. So my guy is just still he's still like wearing like a white t-shirt and jean pants. So I don't know what to do for that. I'm sure eventually I'll figure it out or stumble upon it. But as of right now, like my character's nothing to look at, right? I don't have anything crazy. I don't think I've really even unlocked anything either. But yeah, it's fine. It's like I said, it's not like I'm gonna be staring at my character the entire time I'm playing. But you do see your character relatively often. And I guess that also leads me to like, okay, there is a story in this game as well, and it's the same thing as the usual Forza game where it's like, oh, the Forza event is here, and we're showing you around Japan, and here he drives slowly with us as we talk about the area, which is interesting. Don't get me wrong, and there is a race usually at the end of all that, but at the same time, it's fucking boring to do, and that's why I've been skipping the story missions. There's like 27 of them, and I've done 2, and that was enough for me for the story missions. And you might be saying, well, how are you gonna mark the game as complete if you don't complete the story? I count in Forza games. I count getting to the last of those like major events as like finishing the story. Because the regular story stuff is literally just like, hey, let me talk to you about Mount Fuji, and then let's drive around Mount Fuji, or with Mount Fuji in the background, right? It's nothing that's gonna be like,
Hello there.
oh, this was an amazing single player experience, and the story is so good. No, it's literally the most bare bones thing you can think of, which it kind of does. It kind of reminds you of like Madden or something in that aspect, where it's like, yeah, it's a sports game. Because racing is a sport. I know Jeff Keighley doesn't want to admit that. He puts sports/racing game. Yeah, I don't know how many people need to hear this, but racing is a sport, by the way. Okay, whether it would be with cars or on your feet, it's a sport. We don't need to separate the category into sports/racing. Okay. You can clarify that it includes racing because not everyone knows that, but you don't need to have racing in the title for that because it is a sport already. But yeah, it's a sports game. It does what it needs to do, and it does it well. There's a lot of sports games that come out yearly that don't do that. Madden is one of them, obviously, and I'm sure there's other ones that people can point to as well that I haven't played. But Forza is one of those ones that it's not yearly, and when it comes out, it's usually a quality game. And it's still like at the end of the day, the worst Forza game, which is in my opinion is 4, the worst one is still worth playing. Like because it still has so much going on. It has a lot of things to do, a lot of things to see, a lot of fun little landmarks to find. The secret cars are also fun to find as well. And at the end of the day, what more could you want, right? What more could you want from a game like this? And I guess that leads me to my final thing that I wanted to talk about with this game, which is just something that's kind of going on in general with the gaming landscape. And it's something that's been really fucking annoying me lately because God forbid they put pronouns in a game like this, right? You're going through your character creator and you can choose your pronouns. He, she, him, her, they, them, right? And of course, there's that one sect of fucking Twitter that's always the most vocal who are like, oh, they've ruined the game. They've ruined the game for this 1 second decision. They've ruined it. Look, if you're getting this butthurt over choosing between 3 options, I don't know what to fucking tell you. I think it's living rent free in your head, this decision, and maybe you should look inward instead of pointing your rage outward. Because you might be confused about something if this is causing you so much grief that, oh, we're being inclusive and allowing people who don't have regular pronouns to have their pronouns in the game. Oh man, oh shit, this is gonna really break down the walls of gaming, right? This is really good. This is the turning point right now. Forza, because they have they them pronouns in it, it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail. Oh, what's that? IGN gave it a 10 out of 10. Woke. I hate people. I don't know if you know this, but I genuinely hate people. And the fact that the main reason is that they take such a small thing like this and then they just blow it out of proportion and then it becomes the hot topic for the week. And of course, I have to talk about it because it's the hot fucking topic of the week. It was trending on Twitter for 3 days straight and I could not get away from it. I could not get away from it's always the same people too. You know the avatars, right, at this point. You know who they are. You know what their names are. I don't even need to say one single thing. But let me just describe the avatar to you and you'll probably know who it is. Little 3 mouth, balding head, glasses. You know who I'm talking about. Like paragraphs upon paragraphs about why they shouldn't put pronouns in a game like this. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And this happens with every single release that has pronouns in it. And it just boggles my mind because for years upon years upon years, you've been choosing between a male or a female character. Do you want to be male or do you want to be female? You've been choosing from those two options for as long as you've been alive. But now there's a third option. Oh, fuck. Now they've gone too far. There's now 3 options. And you know what? I just can't take it anymore. Oh, the option that this person will most likely never ever choose or debate about choosing. That's going to be the thing that they scream and shout about for weeks on end. It's because it gets them clicks and engagement. I know that. But it's still fucking annoying to have the same conversation every single fucking time a game comes out. And that's the thing. I would love to praise Xbox for doing this because this is a AAA company. This is a AAA game putting inclusive content into their game. That should be commended. But no, instead you have a whole group of people who are like losing their fucking minds. The 3 brain cells still left in their brain are screaming because they have a third option, because they just happen to see the they them pronouns. What? How do these? The funny thing is that most of these people complaining about this, if you went up to them in real life and said, "Oh, sorry, I use they them pronouns," they probably wouldn't care. They would probably not even acknowledge it. They might still misgender you, but at the same time, they wouldn't make a big fuss about it. I don't think. I would say probably there's a very small percentage that would actually be confrontational about it, because anytime that I've met anyone in real life who has crazy shit happening on their Facebook, their profile pages or whatever, you see them in real life and you go, "Hey, how's it going today?" They don't bat an eye because guess what? You're actually there in front of them. Online, they can be whoever the fuck they want to be, and they can be as shitty as a person as they want to be. But when you meet them in person, they don't say shit. But because they're behind an avatar and because they're on an anonymous website, they can say whatever the fuck they want. But it's also really, really funny because these are the same people who, when they played Skyrim back in the day, chose a female character, but they're male. Can you say gay? That's all I want to say about that. All right. Sorry, I went a bit too hard on that, I think. All right, let's move on. We're going to move on to the next game I want to talk about, which is, of course, Invincible Versus. Let me just load up the gameplay here so that I may talk about it. It feels like forever since I've played this game, actually. It feels like forever. Let me just find the gameplay here. Usually I load up the gameplay before doing this, so I apologize. All right, here we go. We have a review. Yes, that's right. Review time, because I actually played through the entirety of Invincible Versus. We are on a commercial right now, of course. Yeah, whatever. So, Invincible Versus. This is a fighting game, of course. This footage is coming from MK Fire and Ice. OG, respect to the name. So, Invincible Versus, new fighting game coming out. This actually came out a couple weeks ago now, but I just played it this past week, and I played through the whole thing on stream. And I wasn't expecting to do that because I wasn't expecting the story mode to be as short as it is. Now, that's obviously a part of my criticisms for the game. I will try to move away from that for right now, but it is a pretty big sticking point for me personally, right? But what Invincible Versus is a pretty fun fighting game where you have teams of 3 characters fight teams of 3 characters, and you can switch between them. You have special break moves and special swap moves and stuff like that. So essentially, it's just a more beefed up version of like Marvel vs. Capcom, or even some of the Mortal Kombat games had you switching between characters as well. And this one has a very quick fighting style to it. I think it's very easy to pick up. A lot of the characters have similar button inputs for their moves. It's not as in-depth as I feel like it's not as in-depth as something like Street Fighter or Tekken or even Mortal Kombat. With how, I mean, out of those three, Mortal Kombat is arguably the most basic out of all three of these games. But it does have a pretty diverse roster of characters, along with a pretty unique way to play the game. Now, if you know a fighting game, I don't need to really tell you. You have light hits, you have medium hits, you have heavy hits, you can duck, you block by holding backwards on the joystick, etc., etc. You use a special button to do special moves and swap out characters, of course. But what this game does that is different from other games is the fact that you can hold down R2 or right trigger, and you can actually do special moves that way instead of having to do a specific input on your controller or something like that. And this is built into the game itself. So essentially what you do is you hold down RT, you start to do your combo or you do a move, and it's pumped up. It has a bit of juice behind it, and then you have like a special finisher, or they do a special animation if the hits connect. There are a couple of different like big moves. With the X button is your special moves. So those ones are for doing like special combos or whatever. You only have to press one button, but they do the combo for you, or they do like a special thing. There's of course the like mega move as well that does like a bit of an animation and kind of shows off the character and what their personality is for a quick second. And most of them are fine. Like I'm not going to be here nitpicking like every single character's ultimate move or whatever you want to call it. But there are a couple that I feel like are lackluster in the game, while there's a couple that are like super really fun, like Invincible himself. Mark's special is pretty fun, and Omni-Man's is pretty cool. It harkens back to the show, of course. And Rex is also, I think he has my favorite one of all of them because it's just so him, right? But then there's other ones that are just like, it's one of the 3 or 4 Viltrumite characters, and they kind of do like a very similar thing. Or, you have a Monster Girl who really doesn't do anything too crazy. Like she has a cute moment where she turns back into herself and then back into the monster. But it's, for the most part, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm hitting you over the head with things. Bulletproof actually has a pretty cool one. He's actually more of a minor character in the show itself, but he has a pretty cool ultimate move where he like throws a car into the air and he like starts wailing on the opponent. Then he's like, "I called you a taxi," and he points and the car like hits the person. Like, cool stuff like that. But like I said, there's a couple of them that are a little bit lackluster in my opinion. They don't really do anything too crazy, and maybe it's because they had so many similar characters in this game. Like I said, there's like 4 Viltrumite characters, and if you don't know what the Viltrumites are, they're the Superman-esque characters. They all come from the same planet. They all have like super strength and can fly and stuff like that. And you have these very similar feeling characters because even though they're all unique in the show and in the context of Invincible Versus, they are still very similar just because they are the same species, the same race of characters. They're all Viltrumites. Omni-Man, Conquest, and the others. And the others. I think there's actually more than 5 then. I think there's like 5 plus Mark would be 6. I guess that'd be 5.5 technically. But these characters have a very similar fighting style, and I was having the most fun with the game when I was messing around with characters who weren't just another Viltrumite, right? The roster really shines when you're playing as someone like Powerplex or Rex or name any other character here, honestly. And I feel like it really starts to sing when you're playing as these other characters, like, because it just kind of feels like something unique. A lot of the characters don't really have a similar kind of echo in the game. They're just kind of like their own unique characters, like Robot and stuff like that. But when you play as one of the Viltrumite characters, no matter how unique they could be, like Invincible or Omni-Man, it's just like, it just doesn't feel like a different character because I've already played with 4 other characters who have a very, not just a similar fighting style, but a very similar like build and stuff like that. So it starts to become a bit monotonous when you're trying to switch between characters, but two of your three characters kind of feel the same, and it kind of weighs you down a little bit. There is one character um, who is like a ranged character, and I feel like they didn't give him enough oomph for his character. Think about some of the best ranged characters in fighting games. A lot of times they are in Injustice, like Deathstroke. Deathstroke is great. Deadshot in Injustice 2, and also the cowboy character from Mortal Kombat X and 11, which I'm blinking on his name right now. I want to say Casey, but I don't think it's Casey. I think that's the Overwatch character. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, these characters do what they do really well, range and escaping. But when you're playing as the character in Invincible Versus, and I'm blanking on his name right now, even though I've read through the entire first omnibus of comics and I've watched the entire series, all the series back to back. He just doesn't have a lot of oomph to him. Like his light attack, I understand just being like a pistol shot, right? A little energy pistol. That's no big deal. But when you use like his medium range, it's literally a medium range assault rifle. It doesn't go very far. And then if you use the heavy attack, it's another short range, like double barreled shotgun almost. And I just felt like there's something missing here. Like we're missing like the long range attack. And when you look at a character like Deathstroke or Deadshot or whatever, they have the short range stuff, but then they also have the long range stuff like the grenade launcher or a assault rifle, sniper rifle, whatever you want to use. And I think that really rounds out the character quite well. And I know it can be annoying for the person who is fighting them, but of course that's just the nature of learning a fighting game and learning how to get around these types of things. And with this game, I just feel like his character just does not have the punch to back up the ranged attacks that he has. And even though he does have some short range stuff with his special moves, a lot of his regular moves are literally just like, I'm pulling out a pistol, I'm pulling out an assault rifle, I'm pulling out a shotgun, and they just don't have long enough range for me personally to make it viable in the game. Now, I'm sure that there's some tier list out there that puts him at the top or close to the top, right? I get it. And maybe I'm just bad at the game. That could also be as well. But for the most part, I just really didn't find myself enjoying using that character in general. But there's a lot of characters who I enjoyed using. I think Powerplex was my favorite out of all of them, and I think that Powerplex has one of the most unique arcs in the show and in the comic books, where he's just a regular guy who puts these experimental things, he jabs them into his body, and they essentially, when he gets punched, they generate energy. And the more he gets punched, the more damage he takes, the more he outputs. And it's just like such a cool concept. I mean, obviously, it's probably been done before, right? I think it was done with Black Panther, right? But at the same time, like it's just a really cool mix of like an idea like that with an original character of his caliber and his story, right? And that just his moveset really, I felt like his moveset really complemented his character himself, and like his special like animations and his big fatality type thing, like all that stuff kind of really works together. Speaking of fatalities, there is a way to essentially completely decimate the opponent, and that's when you do an overkill. So essentially you just kind of keep hitting them or doing a combo on them, or you finish them off with your ultimate ability, and then their head will explode or their whole body will just kind of fall to pieces, right? Like stuff like that will happen. I think that's a nice touch. Obviously, Mortal Kombat-esque, of course. Not as gruesome, I guess, as some of those Mortal Kombat things, but still pretty fun, pretty cool there. And I think in general, I think the graphics are good with the game. I think it plays well. I think for a fighting game, as a person who's not really like huge in the fighting games, like I like Mortal Kombat, I like Street Fighter. I'm not good at these games. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not like the best fighting game player ever, but I do enjoy messing around with them and playing them, of course. And I think for a fighting game, it is pretty simple to pick up. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to master, as most of them are. But at the same time, like, for me personally, I could pick it up, I could play it just because I was a fan of Invincible. And if you're a fan of Invincible, you'll be able to pick this game up, play it, and you probably won't have too much trouble getting through at least the campaign. Obviously, if you want to do some of the more difficult things in the game, like doing the ladders or going online, you're going to need to actually learn how to play the game in depth. But if you're just going for the story mode, you don't even have to put it on a harder difficulty. You just play easy mode, go through the story mode, boom, bada bing, you're good to go. So that is a positive. The game is easy to pick up, and anyone can kind of Swing by, and you can even button mash this game if you so desire, right? But where the game is going to disappoint, I think, a lot of people is the fact that the campaign, if you play through it without having to redo a fight, is only about an hour long. And they touted this campaign as being, one, an original story set in the Invincible universe. It kind of takes place between season 3 and 4, which makes sense for the most part. It has the original writer of the series helming the direction of the story, which is like cool. Love that. But at the same time, it's just an hour long, and it really doesn't do anything. Like, the story is what it is, right? You get... I kind of expected what they were going to do, which is take all these random characters and somehow get them in the same place. And what they do is they use the technicians, who are the guys who put together Big Brain Boy, and they essentially use holograms or whatever to make themselves look like other characters from the game, and then they capture characters from the Invincible universe, and they fight each other, or they use their bodies to clone the characters, right? So what this ends up being, though, is unfortunately a lot of fighting the same character over and over and over again. If you know Mortal Kombat 9, what's one thing that you know about Mortal Kombat 9? You fought Baraka so many times in that game. He was the punching bag of that game. If you've played Mortal Kombat X, I believe Reptile was the big punching bag for that one. Almost every single time you would fight Reptile. Mortal Kombat 11. I believe one of the new characters Kano. Kano was the punching bag for that one. You literally fought Kano in almost every single story segment of that game. Here, you are fighting every single Viltrumite over and over and over again. Sometimes you would fight the same group of Viltrumites 2 times in a row. And that would be Omni-Man, Conquest, and the other 3 characters. They would kind of swap them around a little bit, right? And that was so disappointing to me, because this is a fighting game. It's an hour-long campaign, and you are giving me the same characters to fight over and over and over again. This doesn't have a cinematic story like Mortal Kombat. This does not have the open world to explore like Street Fighter. This is just a straightforward, you go from one fight to the next. Yes, there are cutscenes interlaced here and there, but for the most part, you are fighting the same 5 characters, maybe even 6 characters, over and over and over again. And yes, you are swapping your characters out for the most part. You play as Mark the most in the campaign, but you are switching out characters here and there. But it's become such a bore to fight the same group of Viltrumites over and over and over again, and then like nothing changes, and you just fight them again, right? I just feel like there's something inherently missing with the campaign. It's probably something that could add some flavor to it, is having more characters to fight. At the beginning of the campaign, you're swapping between characters left and right. You're swapping between who you're fighting left and right. But once the story actually starts happening, you literally are just shanghaied to fighting the same group of characters for the rest of the campaign, which is very disappointing, especially to me as a person who's a fan of Invincible, and I've watched all 4 seasons. I've read the first volume of the omnibus. I think that I have a pretty good knowledge base for this game, and I think that I'm the target demographic for it as well, for the most part. Someone who's just a fan of Invincible, wanting to play a game based on Invincible. And they've kind of fumbled the core thing that was really making me interested in the game and making it worth the price of admission of $50. And it was only an hour long. And what I played was like not even that great, either. Like, it was just, the story mode was just kind of there. It was like, hey, we need an offline offering. Here's this campaign mode. Guess what? It's written by the guy who wrote the comic books. Isn't that great? Yeah, that's great. I just wish that it wasn't an hour long. Obviously, it took me a little bit longer to get through because I had to restart a couple fights, so it took me more like an hour and a half. But at the end of the day, I go off of what I see on like YouTube, or people who are who played through the game for like their YouTube channels, and they cut out like the replays or whatever. And it boils down to about an hour, and that's just a bit unforgivable for me personally. Like, I really feel like that is a real sticking point for me personally, because when I play a fighting game, I'm there for the story mode, and I'm there for like the ladder mode or whatever, of course. But like, if the story's not good in it, then I'm gonna have a bad time. Like, it doesn't matter how good the fighting of the game is, and Invincible Versus does have really good fighting, but for me personally, because of how I play fighting games, it's very much like this is kind of like the core of my experience. I like the campaign mode. I've played through Mortal Kombat 9's campaign so many times. I played through X and 11 and 1 a couple of times because I like the stories. I like the cinematic nature. I like the story beats and stuff like that. Especially like Mortal Kombat 9, I still feel like is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. Not just for its roster size, but also its story is just batshit crazy. And I wish that they would keep doing that with the series. But unfortunately, because of Mortal Kombat 9, and they killed off like every single character in that game, it kind of hurt the series in the long run in terms of the story for the game. So it's one of those things where it's like, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Sometimes you stab yourself in the back by making something too good in the previous game, right? And what we have right now is just a bit of like a letdown for me personally, because I don't think they're planning on adding any more story with the season passes. They're planning on adding more characters, of course, but they're not planning on adding any more story to the game, obviously. And for me personally, like I play through ladder mode with the characters I like. And once I get through ladder mode, I go and I see a couple of their endings. It's like, yeah, I don't really need to play this anymore, because I'm not a person who's going to go online and play PvP and get my ass kicked 5 million times, right? I tried it a little bit with Mortal Kombat X back in the day. I tried it a little bit with Mortal Kombat 1. I'm just not that good at fighting games. Like I'm competent at them, but I'm not that good at fighting games. And even with a game like this that does allow you to kind of spam the controller a little bit, it's still like one of those things where it's like I'm just not going to be ever going to be at that level, because it's just not my type of game to really dive into and completely immerse myself in, right? And the same can go for Forza as well. I talked about Forza earlier too. I'm not one to get really engrossed in a racing game and really dive into it and really pull it apart at its seams. So and the same thing here, like with a fighting game, like I'm there for the story, I'm there for the fighting mechanics and how easy is this game going to be to pick up and play. Everything else is kind of superfluous to me. Also, another sticking point for me is the roster construction. We have a pretty good roster here. I've talked about this before. I think the roster is pretty good. The problem is, just like with the campaign, there's one too many similar characters here. Not just because there's a ton of Viltrumites, but also you have Alan the Alien, and you have War Beast, right? And they are also pretty similar. They're beefy, muscular characters. Alan can fly, much like the Viltrumites can fly, and they just feel so similar in that way when you're playing with these characters. And they might have a different move set, yeah, sure, but for the most part, if you tear away their specific special moves and voice lines, they're really a very similar character. They both fly, they both are super muscular, they both hit hard, they both have a pretty healthy health bar. And I just feel like in that aspect, it kind of lets me down a little bit, because it's just so many of similar characters on the roster, constructing this roster, and that takes up like 6 or 7 slots on there that could have been filled by a lot of different people. And the season pass we've found we have 2 characters already confirmed. One of them is a pretty minor character from the 4th season, which I don't even remember her name right now, but it's the one, she like goes to a power plant, she sucks the power into her staff, and then she's the only one who can hold her staff, blah, blah, blah. Which is fine, right? I don't mind a minor character being put into the season pass, but the main problem is that the Immortal is in the season pass, and the Immortal is a main character throughout the entirety of Invincible, so it doesn't really make sense that he, out of all these characters, is a season pass member. Also, at the same time, he's exactly the same build as a Viltrumite, and he's probably going to have the same kind of moveset where he can fly, and he's buff, and blah, blah, blah. That's the other thing, too, that I'm worried about, is he's also just another big buff flying dude. And even though I don't mind that, at the same time, when you have a roster full of it, it's just like, okay, we're adding another one. But I think the main thing here is like, yeah, instead of one of these other Viltrumites who is maybe more of a lesser character in the series, we could have popped them out and put him there, Immortal there. That's all I'm saying. And there's other characters as well who could have shown up on this roster too. There's plenty of villains that just weren't used, and they have more screen presence than the first person from the season pass. So it's kind of weird that they aren't adding some of these other more minor characters too. But I think so. Like in general, if we took out 3 out of the 6 Viltrumite characters, I think we would be fine, because I think Conquest definitely needs to be there. Obviously, Omni-Man and Invincible, of course. But we could maybe like make palette swaps for the other Viltrumite characters who are just kind of like there, right? Or maybe make them like a Pokemon trainer scenario where you have one randomly, right? I know they technically have different move sets and different vibes to them, but it's also like, yeah, but they're just Viltrumites at the end of the day. Like they're just the same style of character over and over again. But you do have the mainstays. You have Alan and Duplicate and Rex and Robot and Monster Girl and stuff like that. Like you do have some mainstays here, which I appreciate a lot. But I feel like if we're gonna put some deep cuts on there, especially in the season pass that you're paying extra money for, make them more mainstay characters instead of one that was in 2 episodes in season 4. Like I don't get that. Or if you're gonna put the Immortal into the game, put them on the main roster and take out one of these Viltrumite characters and throw them on the season pass. That's all I'm saying. Oh, but we needed this Viltrumite for the story. No, you didn't. You have enough. You have enough. So yeah, that was the other sticking point for me too. The roster is just kind of like it's fine for the most part. Like I like the variety in the characters, but also, or I mean, I should say I like the characters they chose for the most part. But then there's a couple that are like, yeah, I don't know, just doesn't really make sense to have all these characters here. And then they also have an original character for the game, Elemental, and it's pretty much just the Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of thing going on, or you could say Storm as well. But it is more like Avatar because she controls like all the different elements: wind, fire, earth, water, right? And I don't know. Do we really need an original character for this? There is one character who was gender swapped from the comic books to the show, which is a whole nother bag of worms that I don't want to get into because it's just people being stupid. But that character could have easily been in this game. She's like an Iron Man clone kind of character, right? Why don't you have her in the game instead of this Elemental character? Like I don't mind Elemental at all. I think she was fine and her fighting style is cool. But maybe keep her for the season pass, or put a character who is prominent on the show in the game. That's all I'm asking for. I think that's pretty fair to ask for. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I can't really recommend Invincible Versus. Like if you're a diehard fan, I think you'll be disappointed by this, as I was, simply because there's not a lot going on here. And if all you want here is the story mode, like myself, you're gonna be left with a bit of a pit in your stomach because there's not much story here to be had, and the story that you do have is just very, very slim. It's slim pickings. And I was really hoping for something more, a bit more grandiose, a little bit more just longer in general, like something that takes a couple hours to finish. I know fighting games aren't known for their massive stories, but make it like a 3-hour story mode, much like the Mortal Kombat games, and I'm fine with that. But just an hour really does stab you in the heart because other modes are not going to interest me as much as the story mode, and that's just a me thing, right? I've already talked about that, but that's more of a me thing than a you thing, right? So at the end of the day, like I said, I can't really recommend this game. I say get it on a sale. I think you're gonna if you buy it for like $20, you're gonna be relatively happy about that. But if you buy it for full price at this point, I think you'll be a bit disappointed. Like even though the combat's great and the stages are fun that you go to, and the finishing and the ultimate moves and stuff like that are very, they really harken to the characters and they're pretty cinematic, all things considered. There's a lot to be desired here in the character the roster construction, in the story mode, and in other content as well. Really, other than the story mode and the ladders, there's just the versus mode, right? The main PvP mode, and that's also feels a bit bare bones to me too as well. So at the end of the day, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. I think it's a pretty average type game. I have my criticisms about it, and maybe it is just a me thing, but in general, I just can't recommend this one, and I would say wait for a sale because of the reasons that I listed. I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be by yapping about the same thing over and over again. But those are my thoughts about Invincible versus, and we will move on to the next part of the show, which I don't really have a card for, of course. But I just want to do a quick discussion about what the heck is going on in gaming right now, because for me personally, I'm having a bit of a trouble. So we're gonna throw the first impressions slide up, but just know it's not really first impressions. All right, so I've been playing a lot of games recently that I just have not been gelling with, and a lot of these games are games that were very highly hyped, right? Very highly hyped. And it all kind of started with Mouse PI for Hire, where I played it and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get why this is getting high praises. And I found myself agreeing more so with the score of IGN, funny enough, than any other score that was going around, which was like a 6 out of 10, right? And I think I've even lowered my score at this point simply because I'm just not I'm not enjoying the game. I haven't played it in like a couple weeks now because I'm dreading the idea of going back to it because I'm just not having fun with it. And I've talked about the game before. There's nothing new that I have to report other than the fact that, I just don't feel like going back to that game. And I'm having the same feelings for Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, which is insane because this was my most hyped game coming into this year. It looked like it was going to be a game tailored to me, Batman fan number one. But as I was talking about last week, I just really am not enjoying the game at all. It's so boring. It is just so boring. And that, a lot of people would defend the game by saying, well, it's made for kids. Well, it's a Lego game. What do you expect? I tell you what, you go back and you play Lego Batman 3 and tell me that that's not an entertaining game. Because you will tell me that it's an entertaining game because there's actually things going on. The story is fun. The collectibles are fun. The open world is fun. Like, they built that game up, and it actually was a lot of fun. It's a Lego game. It's a kid's game. It's blah, blah, blah. You can say anything you want that you're using to defend Lego Batman right now. You can say it for Lego Batman 3, and I will agree. But I will also say that it's entertaining and it has interesting things going on. With Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, I find myself trapped in this endless loop of sitting there, laying on my futon, and just hitting the square button, not thinking about anything. I'm just slamming that square button. I don't have to think about anything. And you can say, oh, but that's how Arkham was. No, it's not. No matter how much cope you want to have while defending Lego Batman, Arkham at least makes you try with the combat, especially Arkham Knight, which is the final one of that series. Well, the final one. Obviously, there was VR games after that, but still, my point stands. Where there's more mechanics going on, the stealth is way more in depth. The fighting itself actually makes you think. There's characters with different ways of attacking you with knives and bats and etc. etc. You play Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. What are you going to be doing for 90% of your playthrough? Is smashing that square button. You don't need to press it in time. You don't need to press it before an enemy attacks you. You don't need to press it along with your combo. You don't have to do anything. You can just press square and Batman will just punch the shit out of whoever's in front of him. There's a dodge button. Haven't really had to use it too often. There's a parry button. You don't really need to use it because if you just press the square button before they actually hit you, the attack will be canceled. Unlike in the Arkham series, where if someone's coming at you with a blue lightning bolts above their head, and you try and hit them, and you do it too late, you're gonna get hit. But in this game, if you press the square button, even as they're about to hit you, you don't get hit. Because the game is literally made for babies. All the way down to it's fart and piss humor, right? Which was a sticking point for me in the last episode that I was talking about this game, where it's like we are going so low to have poop and fart jokes in a game in the first fucking hour, which is just really fucking annoying, right? Like there is a way to make Batman. I've said this before. There's a way to make Batman for children, right? They've done it before in the past. There's plenty of different comic books you can point to. There's plenty of different video games you can point to that do Batman well. The Lego Batman movie, that is made for kids, but does it feel adult? Yes, it feels like it's made for both adults and for kids at the same time. This game though just feels like it's made for kids, which maybe I should have seen coming because Skywalker Saga was also the same way. But for me personally, I was like, I'm sure it'll be entertaining. It has this really unique combat that no other Lego game has. I'm sure it will be entertaining. Maybe a bit basic, but at least it'll be entertaining. It is not either of those things. Well, I mean, it's basic, but it's not entertaining. So, yeah, I mean, I this is one of those games where I was like, I'm really excited for this. I cannot wait to play this game. I am on the edge of my seat, like, can't wait. I bought the deluxe edition because I was so excited for it, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, I can't stomach the idea of going and playing more of it. Which is crazy. I'm like, what, 4 hours in now? I've done a fair amount of story missions. I'm reaching the point where I'm starting to go to more than just the Batman stuff. And I cannot force myself to go back to this game. I tried to a couple days ago just because I was like, I should play more of this before, doing the podcast, right? I couldn't do it. I played one mission and I was so fucking defeated and so fucking bored that I just immediately switched over to something else, to Forza actually, just to feel something, right? Because no matter how basic Forza is, at least there's more going on. And like kids can play Forza. There's literally no reason that a kid couldn't play Forza. It's made for both demographics. But Lego Batman just really feels like it's made for the younger audience, and that's about it. And so another game that is also under the same banner here of one that was hyped up that I was really excited to play but didn't reach that potential was Invincible Versus. I was very excited about that. I was very excited to play that. I almost pre-ordered it from the comic book shop because it had a unique cover from there. But at the end of the day, I felt pretty disappointed, pretty underwhelmed. At least with that game, I was able to get through the entire thing, mostly because it's only an hour long. But it's one of those things where it's like, this is another game that I very much was excited about. I was very hyped about, and unfortunately, it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. It was one of those things where I was begging for more in the experience, more of everything, and it just was not there. And I just talked about Invincible Versus to the ends of the earth, so I'm not going to sit here and continue to do that. But one more that I would say is in this same category is Replaced. I know that this game is getting a lot of praise. I've not talked about it on the podcast, and that is because I have not played it since the day it came out. I played a couple hours. I said I'm not vibing with this, and I let it be. And that's just the name of the game. That's just the name of the game, and I feel like I'm slightly wasting my money right now because I've bought 4 or 5 games within the past couple of months that I have played a bit of, and I just said, you know what, I'd rather play this or I'd rather play that. Saros was my last excuse. I was like, well, I want to play Saros instead of playing, whatever I was playing I could have played at the time. And now it's like, well, instead of playing Lego Batman, I guess I'd rather play Forza at this point. Like I would really much rather do one of these boring ass driving missions than play 1 second more of Batman. And it's just it's very confusing to me because how big of a fan of Batman I am. How excited I was for this game, and for it to just not deliver in the way that I want to is just really disappointing. And I guess this all also leads into the fact that, like, damn, if you just have a different opinion, no matter where you're at, whether it be IGN or whatever, you're just gonna get dogpiled on. And the crazy thing is like people are complaining that the guy who gave Mixtape a 10 out of 10 gave another game like an 8 or whatever. I don't remember what the game was. It might have been Lego Batman for all I know. It's a little bit funny. I had this discussion when we talked about Mixtape. It's funny that people are dogpiling on this person so much for their one review, on the website, or the review that they did this week, right? And the fact of the matter is that IGN is not just one person like I am. Like I'm consistent with my opinions because I am one person. I'm not a conglomerate of 3, 5, 7, 8 people, right? I am one person, but the fact of the matter is like you're gonna trust if you read IGN, you gotta trust whoever that person is who's reviewing the video game, and whether it's Mouse PI for Hire, Mixtape, Lego Batman, etc. I think there's always going to be a group of people who just disagree vehemently with whatever the person said because it's just their single opinion, right? And even though at this point I'm like not willing to go back to Mixtape right now either, it's just one of those things where it's like I just wish I was enjoying these games because everyone else seems to be enjoying them. I read Depraved Slasher, friend of the show. He gave Lego Batman a glowing review. I follow people who I respect their opinions on video games all across the board, and they love Mouse PI for Hire. It's the most unique first-person shooter they've ever played, right? Or it's a very stylistic, fun first-person shooter. And I listen to what they say, and I'm like, that's great. I'm glad that you feel that way, but I just don't. I just can't get behind any of these points that they're making. And I don't want to sit here and like go through every single point and talk about them because I did that before with when I originally talked about Mouse PI. But the fact of the matter remains, I just feel like there's something wrong with me right now because it's like 1 in 5 games are actually entertaining me right now in terms of like living up to the hype, and that's why I canceled my pre-order for 007 because I was like, I don't like. Everyone's praising the game right now. Everyone's loving this game. I don't want to be the one guy being like, well, I paid $70 for this. I'm not enjoying it. So this is starting to affect my gaming slate as well, because it's a lot of money. I mean, look, it's a lot of money to put into something, right? $70 a pop for a big AA or AAA title. It's a lot of money to invest. And people who live on a budget know, like, if you are not liking a game that you paid $70 for, you're going to feel the need or the want or the obligation to see it all the way through because you spent the money on it. And then you just give yourself an even worse experience. It's why I've been kind of, blessed in a way where it's like, okay, if I'm not liking a game, I can just stop playing it. Like Lego Batman. Imagine paying, 60 or whatever dollars I paid for that, and then, not being able to buy groceries next week because of that, and I hate the game, right? Well, I don't hate it, but I dislike the game. That would be really detrimental. So I am blessed in that way where I can play Lego Batman and I can just kind of drop it when I want to. So yeah, I mean that's the thing though, right? Like, I don't know what's going on with me right now, but like I said, it's like 1 of 5 games I'm enjoying. In this case, it was Forza out of Invincible and all those other ones that I talked about. And before it was Saros mixed in with Mouse PI and Vampire Crawlers and stuff like that. So it's just crazy to me that 1 of 5 games are hitting right now, even though all these games should speak to me, should be games that I like playing, right? So that is that. That's my mini topic for today. Probably not going to be a major part here, but just wanted to get that off my chest because, god damn, I am confused myself, as many of you are about my thoughts on Lego Batman. All right, let's go ahead and move on over to our first news for the week, and I need to switch to my desktop real quick, so give me 1 second here. And then we're going to do this. All right. So this one was disappointing to say the least. I think that I didn't see this one coming. And this is, so, I mean, if you're listening to this on Spotify or whatever, obviously you don't know what I'm talking about yet. But Hideo Kojima teamed up with Nicholas Winding Refn to make an AI-powered movie series or a short movie series. And this is probably the most disappointing thing of the week, honestly. And like I don't want to like bore you with the specifics, but essentially what they are doing is where is it at? Here we are. They're making these, like I said, little short films here, and they were like, oh, it's mostly made from AI with a little bit of human input, right? And you can take a still frame from any scene and you can tell like, yeah, this isn't human made. This isn't human made. This isn't. I mean, Kojima doesn't even look like really himself right here. His face changes from one scene to the next. His beard changes and everything. Like that's not Hideo Kojima. This is all AI generated. This is AI generated. This is AI generated. Kojima looks different again. He kind of looks like the Mandalorian in that scene. He's changed. Like their body types and shapes have changed again. More AI here. Their body types, look how broad Kojima's shoulders are now. They go through the door and then blah blah blah. So this was very 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 disappointing. And I would make the argument that's like, well, why couldn't you have made this with practical effects? I mean, has an 80s style to it. You could literally drum up, make this out of tin cans and whatever, right? You could literally make this scene without the use of AI. You could literally have yourselves in the movie, the short film, with these outfits on. You don't need to generate anything here. This frame alone, you can see one of this guy's glasses, his frames, is longer than the other one. If you can see that from far away, it's honestly it's one of the most disappointing things right now because Hideo Kojima has a lot of commentary about not just the present but the future of technology. And if you've played Metal Gear Solid 2, you'll know that there's some themes of AI in that one. If you played Metal Gear Solid 4, there's themes of technology and stuff in that one. If you played Metal Gear Revengeance, that one has a heavy internet type theme to it as well. And all that kind of ties back, in my opinion, to AI and what's going on with AI right now. And a lot of people will be like, actually, I don't give a shit. If you are using AI, it doesn't matter how high profile you are. I mean, the fucking president of the United States uses AI, right? I don't respect that at all. I'm not going to respect Kojima for using AI. I'm not going to be like, all of a sudden be like, oh, actually, AI is a good thing because Kojima's using it. No, I think it's still a bad thing to use. I mean, it's causing a lot of problems right now with the video game landscape and everything else. And it just doesn't make sense to me that he has decided to team up with, I don't even know who this guy is, a director or whatever, to make these short films, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And apparently they showed this at Cannes Film Festival, which is also like they're allowing AI projects in Cannes now. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The other thing too is like Kojima has actually not come out with a statement on this. It's been only Nicholas Refn or whatever his name is. So here are some quotes here. So he said that, all right then, Mr. Kojima, have fun. Oh wait, that's something else. Hold on. He said first Kojima shot. The first Kojima shot is 50% Kojima, 50%. Oh, no, I'm reading the wrong things. I'm reading the people's thingamajigs. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, I'm here. See, this would be cut out from the podcast if if I was not live. So Refn says a space odyssey following us as we traverse through a sci-fi dreamscape. It's unclear what Kojima has to say about the endeavor, but Refn also said have shared the feelings that we are somehow split from the same consciousness and moving through different lives while orbiting the same obsessions. And like I said, I don't believe Kojima's come out with a statement about this other than the fact that like, oh yeah, Kojima's here, he's doing it. And like, look, Kojima doesn't have to come out with a statement. He's just doing this. Like that is enough to me. Like it's not them just stealing his look or whatever. Like he is actually putting his stamp behind this, right? Whether he's vocal about it or not, that's besides the point. The fact of the matter is that he is in the creation of this. He is doing things. He's taking pictures with the other guy. He's obviously okayed this. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I forgot to mention this. This is coming from Eurogamer. not from Push Square or anything like that. It's from Eurogamer. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there are so many themes of like be wary about technology and stuff like that in his games, in his artwork, right? Death Stranding 2, 1, Metal Gear Solid games, right? There's so many themes of evil technology. I think the most evil thing about technology right now is honestly AI. AI taking jobs and taking ideas and using it for itself, right? Because AI is never fully original. You know this. Even the most die-hard AI fanboys know that there is not one single thing that is not generated from another idea. The look of this sci-fi short film is taken from other 80s sci-fi era things, even maybe even beforehand as well. I mean, obviously, I mean the look of it looks very, very much like maybe more of a 70s type thing. And it's not like they just said generate a 70s looking sci-fi movie that's completely original. No, they probably said, well, one, the AI can't do that. One, but two, they probably just said generate 70s AI look for, and they put their pictures into the game, right? And it's also really funny to me too that Kojima would willingly give his face to AI, especially after all the commentary he's had about technology and how bad technology could get in the future if it's not regulated. Metal Gear Revengeance. Do I have to say it again? It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. So this is very disappointing. And, I like, it's crazy because I more recently started loving Kojima's work and playing through his works, right? Death Stranding 1, 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, 5, stuff like that. And for this to happen at the peak of my fandom for Hideo Kojima is just a real gut punch. I'll tell you that much, because it was not that long ago I was talking about my top 10 games of the year, and I was praising Death Stranding 2 for all it's worth. And that wasn't made with AI, right? Or at least that we know of. But now I'm going to be a little bit more wary of like, okay, well, what's next? Like, are you going to use AI in Death Stranding 3? Are you going to use AI in this OD game that you're working on? Are you going to use AI in whatever is next? And it's not like this AI technology is being used as a slight tool to help with the more monotonous tasks of game development. No, this is like an AI doing all the work and plastering their faces and stuff into a sci-fi landscape. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. And the comments are justified, and I agree with a lot of what people are saying. Really, the only people who are like praising this are the people who are obviously brainwashed by AI at this point, thinking that it's going to be, this net positive thing. And I just don't see that. I just don't see that right now, and I don't think I'll ever see that, ever really, because at the end of the day, AI, especially things that generate images and stuff like that, it's not original. It's using something else. It's using a picture as reference. It's using a style as reference. It's not just taking nothing and creating something, right? And you can put in as many prompts as you want, but the fact of the matter remains that it's not going to be original, and two, it's not able to be copyrighted. And I think that's the biggest nail in the coffin for AI that I've ever seen. But I digress. Hideo Kojima, Godspeed. All right, next up in the news. All right, so next up we have the Steam OLED has been given a hefty price increase. This is something that was a bit shocking. I mean, obviously, I thought that these prices were going to go up from what they originally were, but these are pretty staggering numbers here, upwards of $300 difference for the 1 terabyte model. So just using this as reference from Wario64, the 1 terabyte OLED model went from $649, which is still a little bit high, but you can kind of justify that, to $949, which is a $300 price increase there. And then you have the 512 gigabyte OLED model that went from $549 to $789, which is about a $230 or maybe $240 price increase there, which is also a pretty staggering amount. And look, I know that the Steam Deck is powerful and it has I mean, the OLED screens are nice and whatever. But for this price point, $900, just buy a gaming laptop or buy a desktop or, I mean, hell, I mean, I'm not like here the shill the Switch. Buy a fucking Switch too. I mean, before the price increases on that, buy a fucking Switch too. I mean, you're gonna get most of the games that come to the Steam Deck anyway, right? I mean, obviously you're gonna miss out on a couple things, but that's why you buy a gaming laptop instead of like a Steam Deck. I understand the portability is a big factor, but I don't feel like the OLED model is that much more premium than just a regular Steam Deck. I think the regular Steam Deck is still hovering around like $500 like that, and mine still works beautifully. It still works fine. Like I'm probably not going to be able to play, I don't know, Red Dead 2 at max settings, but you wouldn't be able to do that on an OLED Steam Deck either. So I mean, this price increase obviously just is a symptom of the wider problem happening with the video game landscape right now, which also ties into our Hideo Kojima conversation, where these AI data centers that are being used to essentially pump out these AI built projects it's stealing a lot of the stuff that is required for these smaller devices, the RAM, the memory, the et cetera, et cetera. Everything is being taken for these big, massive data centers. And it's not good for the video game landscape, and it's also not good for the environmental landscape as well. It's using up a lot of fucking water, a lot of fucking power for these data centers. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, even though, I mean, these are decent specs, it's just like, you know, am I really gonna pay upwards of $1,000 for a handheld console or whatever you want to call it? That used to be $300 less. I felt like $600 probably was still a little bit high, but at least a little bit more like reasonable for something like this. But at this point, this price point it's a bit much for me. And obviously that means like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just get the 512 gigabyte model, right? I don't even know if that's worth it. $789 for a 512 gigabyte model. I mean, obviously you can expand the memory like I did with mine, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, that's that. And then Steam did come out with a slight statement about this. They said the Steam Deck itself hasn't changed, which is kind of wacky to say. These new prices reflect the current state of component costs and other global logistics challenges across the industry as a whole. We'll keep you updated if anything changes. So very short and sweet and to the point there. But also, like, you maybe could go into a bit more of the specifics here. Like, what specifically is causing this to rise? Because I feel like if people saw what was causing the rise specifically, they might be a little bit more angry about this. I mean, obviously people are going to be angry about it in general just because of the price increase, but at the same time, like, I think it would really help for them to be a little bit more transparent. That way people know exactly who to blame here, because as we saw in the Discord, you know, just the blame was being passed to the wrong people. You know, it was being passed to PlayStation or being passed to Valve in general. Like, no, the blame really should be on these AI data centers, these AI components. You know, these companies are taking these components for their AI usage. If it wasn't for that, I don't think there would be a shortage of chips. I don't think there would be a shortage of RAM. I don't think there would be a shortage of whatever, right? Maybe there would still be a graphics card shortage. I don't know. But the main thing is, like, yeah, I mean, we can't pass the blame to PlayStation or Nintendo or Valve even. You gotta put the blame where it does lie, and it does lie with these data centers and these, you know, companies that are taking all these components for themselves in order to fuel their AI services, which is just really annoying to the average consumer, because already, I mean, right now we are living in a time where there is high prices on a lot of things right now. Just look at the price of gas in the USA right now. It is a very high cost of driving your vehicle that you most likely own. So, like, you know, like, go back to the point that I was making before, where it's like, okay, someone buys a $70 game, but they're living on a budget. That game better be good. Well, I mean, look at this. I mean, if you're living on a gaming budget and you have to pay $1,000 for the Switch OLED that you want, that's gonna be even more difficult now to make a reality. And gaming is not just for the elite. The gaming is not just for the 1%. Gaming is for everyone. And when you're raising prices this much, $300, you are eliminating the small person, and you're going, this is a premium thing for just the 1%. Essentially, right? I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of hyperbole in there, but that is essentially what is being said here, not just by Steam, not just by PlayStation, not just by Xbox, but gaming as a whole right now is saying, like, hey, if you want to play games, you got to pay the premium price. You got to pay the upwards of $1,000. I mean, look at the Canadian money here. I mean, obviously the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar are not the same, but 1,349 Canadian dollars. I mean, that's a lot of money. People from Canada will tell you that. Australian dollars, even worse, 1,429 Australian dollars. And that's simply because they have to ship that to Australia, which is one of the hardest places to ship things to, right? So, like these prices are not going to make anyone giddy. Like, oh, because it. I think the other thing too is like the fact that they say, oh, the Steam Deck, nothing's changed about the Steam Deck. We just raised the prices. PlayStation wasn't this brazen about it. Xbox wasn't this brazen about it. Like they weren't like, oh yeah, it's the same shit. They just raised the prices without really saying anything. But for Steam, aka Valve, to come out and be like, yeah, nothing's changed. We just have to raise these prices. That is also like dystopian language to use, right? Like, yeah, I mean, technically it's not probably, it probably shouldn't be worth this amount of money, but it is, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a debate going around right now, like, what's the better deal? Is it the Steam Deck or is it the Switch 2? And right now, I mean, being as unbiased as I possibly can be, and with the price of the Switch 2 still being its original price tag for right now, I would say if you're thinking about getting a handheld console, this is just my personal opinion, but I would definitely just decide to go. I would definitely think hard and go with the Switch 2. Like, obviously, weigh the pros and cons for yourself. Obviously, it's a very personal thing, but just looking from the outside, from a perspective that is not biased, I would say the Switch 2 is a better deal than most of these handheld consoles on the market right now, and they've already proven that they're going to be getting the big games on the Switch 2, like Resident Evil and Pragmata and et cetera, et cetera. Like, all these games are coming to the Switch 2, right? You don't need to have a Steam Deck to play PC games that are portably anymore, because a lot of those PC games are coming to the Switch 2 and to PlayStation, et cetera, right? So that the point remains, like, right now, if you want to play things on the go and you don't want to break your fucking wallet in half trying to do that, the best place to go to is the Switch. Even some of the third-party, like, portable consoles, like the Asus models and stuff like that, all these, like, really crazy ones, they were upwards of like 15 to 2,000 grand before all this shit happened. Like, I remember beat 'em ups, Wood Hawker beat 'em ups, talking about and reviewing some handheld consoles that were like $2,500, and it couldn't even run Red Dead 2 properly without major things happening in the game, like settings happening in the game. So, like, we already had this problem of inflated prices for handheld gaming, because at the time, about 2 or 3 years ago, it was a lot more difficult to compact things into a portable system. Now it's easier to do that than ever because of microelectronics. But at the same time, it's more expensive now simply because of all these things being taken away by just people using AI and data centers being built up and built themselves. So, it's a tough pill to swallow, but that is where we're at in the landscape of video games and technology right now. And it sucks. It sucks a lot because, like I said, average consumer who is just like a mom or dad buying something for their kid, they're not going to want to pay $1,000 for a Steam Deck. No matter how good the specs are on that thing, it's going to age out eventually. And also, it might not even be able to play all the current games that you can play on the PC. I don't think that the Steam Deck OLED is going to be able to play Grand Theft Auto 6 out of the box, right? I just don't think so. And if your son or daughter or whatever is going to want to play Grand Theft Auto 6, but they don't have a gaming PC or they whatever, and you decide to buy them a Steam Deck, I don't think they're going to get a very good experience there on the Steam Deck with Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm just saying. And we saw this with other earlier versions of a handheld gaming PCs with like Cyberpunk and Red Dead, as I've said before, where they struggled to play these games that were the best of the best at the time. And that will be something that happens continuing forward unless Rockstar decides, hey, we're going to make a Steam Deck optimization for this game, which I don't think they are going to do, but they could do that. which would be great for the people who own Steam Decks, obviously, and the people who want to play the Grand Theft Auto 6 on the go. But at the same time, once again, this price point is not consumer friendly. It is not average gamer friendly. It is only friendly to those who can just throw $1,000 around and say, that's just a drop in the bucket for me. And then, they get the latest technology while everyone else is stuck with what they have. And in this case, a lot of people are going to be stuck with the regular version of the Steam Deck, which runs fine. Don't get me wrong, but it's already been aged out because of the OLED model. You can say the same thing about the original Switch when the OLED model of the Switch came out. Like, yeah, the original Switch, it still runs fine, but it's aged out because they released a new version. Same thing with the PlayStation 5. The original version of PlayStation 5 runs fine. They put out the Pro version for like an extra $200 at the time. Of course, PlayStation 5 now obsolete. You have the new Pro version, right? Funny enough, the only company that has not put out a new version of their console is Xbox. And now Xbox obviously hasn't sold very well in the past couple of years, but at the same time, kind of commendable that they kind of stuck to their guns with the Series S and the X. At this point, they didn't release new versions of either of those consoles, like super new. Like obviously they've updated components, but nothing like too super major enough to like really be called like a new version of the console. So I guess that's a bit commendable that they've stuck to their guns in this case. But you look at gaming PCs, you look at anything that you can upgrade the internals on. The hardware is going to eventually need to be updated to stay in line with the current generation of consoles, with the current generation of what video games can do. And maybe we're up close to reaching a plateau. I don't think so. But at the same time, like, yeah, if I wanted to upgrade my computer's graphics card right now, it's going to cost me the same price as it took to build the entire computer 4 years ago, which is insane. And once again, I don't want to put all the blame on one thing, but it's these AI companies buying up all this shit for their data centers so that people can AI generate themselves as Ghibli characters, and it fucking sickens me. And once again, shame on Hideo Kojima for putting his face behind this, putting his name on this AI bullshit. I am fucking sick of it. I am absolutely downright sick of it. Okay, and this is just a symptom of the major problem, which is the shortage of every component you could possibly need to make a gaming computer because it's being used for your mom's AI generated profile picture on Facebook. All right, case closed. I need to cool down a bit. Let's move on to something a bit more jolly. All right, so we got our first glimpse of Unreal Engine 6, and it was a teaser for Rocket League. That's right, Rocket League is going to be rebuilt in Unreal Engine 6. Now, the screenshot obviously won't do it justice. You want to see it in motion, but just from the screenshot alone, lots of detail here, lots of cool reflection technology. The grass particles and stuff like that. It looks really good, obviously. But the real cheese and cracker is in the actual showcase of the game itself. And this actually happened during the Paris Major, which I believe is something for soccer, right? Football. Obviously, this is a YouTube video and you're watching a stream of a YouTube video, so it's not going to look, as good as it maybe could look. But I think that in general, like as our first glimpse as to what Unreal Engine 6 can do, I think it's pretty cool. Hey, thank you for the raid, The Untitled Gamer. I don't have my alerts on right now because we're doing a podcast, but I do appreciate you very much. What were you doing? What were you playing? Thank you so much. Just stopping on a couple of these like cars, I think they look really good. Just from an outside perspective here, they didn't really show too much like gameplay or anything like that in action. But what we saw, I think it's going to look I think it's going to look good. I do think it's going to look good. The problem though is, and this is a point that other people have brought up as well, the fact of the matter is that Unreal Engine 5 is pretty unstable, and developers have trouble developing with Unreal Engine 5 So I don't know if Unreal Engine 6 is going to be more reliable, or it's going to have an easier, or developers going to have an easier time working with it. I don't know, but it looks good. It looks good at least. But yeah, you know, I think that I think I don't know. Actually, I don't even know what to think at this point, because I think that Unreal Engine 5 is a good like just good looking engine in general. So Unreal Engine 6 looks like they're just pumping more into the graphics capability here, and it looks like, judging on these slides that were here, looks like maybe what is that, Fortnite, Lego Fortnite there. That definitely looks like Fortnite, right? This is Disney Dreamlight Valley, possibly. That is, I don't know what that is, actually. I have no clue what that is. But yeah, shoutouts don't come out, don't come up on stream because I'm on this screen. But yeah, like I said, I do appreciate the raid, of course. All right, so that's Unreal Engine 6. Let's move on to something that I'm actually pretty excited for. This is more news. Actually, no, this is news. All right, so Lord of the Rings is getting a new RPG from the same developer as Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I think is pretty neat. If you don't know, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was my second favorite game from last year. Controversy surrounding it and all, of course, as they usually are. But Warhorse Studios has come out and said they are making another Kingdom Come adventure and an open world Middle-earth RPG, which is pretty freaking sweet, if you ask me. I think this is a good developer to do that for. Now, obviously, I think they're going to make the Lord of the Rings game a bit more basic. Not because Kingdom Come is so in depth, right? There's so many systems going on, blah blah blah. There's so much going on in the world. I think that Middle Earth, they'll at least dumb down the combat, which they did in Kingdom Come 2, obviously, but I think they'll do it even more so for the Lord of the Rings one, simply because it's going to be more for a broader audience, right? And because more people are going to be interested in it simply because of the fact that it is a Lord of the Rings game, I think that they'll make sure that the combat is easier to grasp than the Kingdom Come games. Obviously, we need to see what that all entails. Right now, they've just announced that they are working on it, and it might be closer than we think, too, which is kind of crazy. But at the same time, like, yeah, if you're going to do a Lord of the Rings RPG, probably going to want to make it for a more broader audience, which is probably going to piss off somebody in their core fan base. But also at the same time, like, you have to understand, like, Lord of the Rings is not like a small IP. Like, this is huge. I mean, this is one of the biggest IPs that they can get, and the fact that they are behind this game is good. I think this is this is a good developer to put this IP under, because they have already shown that they can do medieval games really well, right? They can do medieval games so well that they're both very highly regarded, right? Very highly regarded, not only just for the games themselves, but for the time period that's represented and the attention to detail in the games too. I forgot to turn off the Lego Batman footage there. It's been playing in the background for a while, hasn't it? So yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is gonna be pretty cool. 2 new games coming from the same developer here. It sounds like they're gonna do a smaller Kingdom Come game, which is why they're calling it a Kingdom Come Adventure. So we'll see what all this entails in the future. But as of right now, pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for this. I think they'll do a good job with it, like I said, and I'm sure they'll tell us more. I mean, maybe pretty soon. Maybe Summer Games Fest. Maybe. Possibly. We shall see. We shall see. All right. More news for today. Today is a very news-heavy day. All right. Another live service game has bit the dust, and this one is Spellcasters Chronicles, which is one that I don't really know about. This is not one that I frequented. I played Highguard, not this Spellcasters game. I played only the best. I play only the best games ever. But Spellcasters Chronicles was a free-to-play 3v3 game that launched in this early access less than 3 months ago, which is pretty crazy. The studio was Quantic Dreams. If you don't know who Quantic Dreams is, you might recognize this logo that they have. They are the ones behind such hits as Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. So this is another case of being put on a project that you are not equipped for because your big Chinese overlord said, this is the way that you should go because this will make us money. Guess what? It didn't make you money because this studio is not a multiplayer game. It's like when Xbox put the they put the Senua's Sacrifice developers, I forget their name right now. They put them on that Bleeding Cool game, which was a hero shooter, online hero shooter, first-person shooter. How does that make sense? They go from a super gritty, like super crazy, like shortish, single-player game to here's a multiplayer game. Same thing here, where it's like you go from a meticulously designed, well-designed, crafted story, branching story, butterfly effect kind of thing going on to an early access, essentially Dota clone. You could say. It just really irks me a lot to see something like this. And let's look at the concurrent player count on PushSquare.com. Here it says there's 888 players for the peak for 3 months. That is insane. That is insanely low. 888 players for a live service game. That is, you're not making money from that, by the way. It will cost more. If all 888 of those people bought your season pass, that would not make up for the server, the amount of service, the renting the servers for the online stuff, right? It has been 54 players have logged in at 24-hour peak. That is sad. That is sad. And at the time of this article being posted, there were 23 players playing currently, which is, just sad. And I've had this conversation with multiple people in multiple Discords. Live service games, if you do one, it has to hit. It just has to hit. We'll talk about another live service game in a minute, but like a live service game, if you're going to make a live service game, you have to hit. If you don't hit, then it's a waste of tons and tons of money and time of your developers. Just look at Highguard. That is all you need to say. You had a very talented group of people making a game that was this like weird hero shooter kind of thing, when they should have been making just another Titanfall game, or a game that was so similar to Titanfall it could have been sued for copyright, right? That's what they should have been doing, because they excelled in that type of game. Titanfall, Apex Legends, two games that that the people from those studios worked on that did really well, were timeless for their time. Obviously, Apex Legends is still going on right now. It's not like it's shut down or anything like that. But then you throw them on, or you have them work on something that just doesn't mesh. It doesn't gel. You could tell that Highguard was supposed to be a different game. You could tell that it was supposed to be a different game, but it got shoehorned with that online, the live service shit, right? Just look at any other game that has failed in the live service area right now. We can talk about Marathon. I don't think Marathon is going to fail in the long run. I do have some hope for that game because it is made by Bungie, and I think the combat is good enough. And once they start adding in these other modes and they start shipping copies for sales and stuff like that, I think they will eventually get to that point where they can kind of sustain themselves again, or say that it's not a complete loss at least. But just look at how much money Sony put into Marathon. We're talking about $500 million to not make back all that money is really detrimental, not just to Bungie themselves, but to Sony as a whole. And then you start seeing things like, oh, we're firing people, we're laying people off, we're blah, 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 we're cutting this, we're cutting that, we're scrapping this, we're scrapping that, right? Things that could have been good games, like the Last of Us Battle Royale that I talked about like 15 times now. Like, that is something that probably could have done well, but because of the failure of these other live service games, it was axed without question. And so when you talk about a live service game, what does it need to succeed? It just needs to be not done anymore, because all the live service games have come, and the ones that have stuck, they stuck. They really stuck, right? They stuck so hard that they're free to play, and they don't care that it's free to play. They're making so much money with these games, right? Fortnite, Apex Legends, Marvel Rivals, Overwatch. These games are here to stay. They've been around for quite some time. Have they been the same consistent quality since the beginning of their time? No. But you have a pretty large player base that is willing to work it out. You know, look at Helldivers 2. People love Helldivers 2. It doesn't have as big of a player base as it did before, but through thick and thin, the people who love Helldivers, which is a lot of people, you know, they keep playing it because it's got that unique game design. You can't be another Fortnite. You can't be another Dota. You can't be another League of Legends. You can't be another Overwatch. There is only one Overwatch. There's only one Fortnite. There's only one Apex Legends. There's only one Dota. There's only one what's that card game? Whatever, right? There's only one of those. And you know why? Because all the other ones that tried to copy those games failed. Look at how many copies of Balatro there are, okay? Right now, there is like, you go on Steam, there's like 500 things that look kind of like Balatro or use that same idea, but how many of them have had critical success like Balatro? How many of them have indie darling treatment? How many of them have had awards thrown their way? How many of them are still being supported to this day? Not a lot. Because guess what? There's only one Balatro, right? They hit the nail on the head. They had an original idea, and now it's like people are going to try and imitate you, but they're not going to do as good of a job. Or it's going to be like, oh, well, I've seen this before, so why do I want to play this? There is literally a game out there that is practically the same as Balatro. You use cards and everything, but just a little bit different, because instead of it being instead of it being like poker hands, it's like cribbage hands or whatever, right? Like look, Balatro works because it's using something that a lot of people know, poker hands. It's pretty easy to learn, right? It uses poker hands, it uses face and number cards, right? And then you have these random factors of jokers and stuff like that, and you got to get past these blinds, right? It's a very easy concept to understand. You start throwing in like 50 new mechanics because you think you're trying to make something more unique, it's not going to stick as well as Balatro did. That's all I'm saying. And you can say the same thing. I've never played Spellcasters, but I mean, just judging from the gameplay that I was watching, like, it's nothing that's gonna like really knock your socks off, man. Like, come on, like, tell me this is going to take over the Dota 2 landscape. We had a game like this back in the day. It was called Battleborn. Do you know what happened to Battleborn? God rest his soul. It failed. It was shut down within 2 years. And no one thinks about it ever again besides for me, because I missed that game, because it was actually kind of fun. This, though, I mean, yeah, we've seen it before. It has a fantasy style, which is the same as something like Dota or whatever, League of Legends. Like, sure, is it third person? A little bit different. Oh, not really that different at all when you think about it. Also, like, you have that Pokemon Unite game, which is essentially the same thing too. You have like little minion characters, and you have a big character that you control that has special abilities. It's the same fucking thing, right? And all those games that I just talked about are free to play, right? So, yeah, at this point, if you decide to do a live service game and you're a developer who is known for single player experiences, don't do it. You're just wasting millions of dollars. Do you know why Bungie lost $2.4 billion? Or, well, Sony lost $2.4 billion from the Bungie sale? It's because Destiny 2 stopped working as well as it did. It's because Marathon, they threw too much money into Marathon. Look at Concord. That was a major loss for Sony. Do you know why? It's because they threw all that money into the development of Concord. And there had to be an inkling. There had to be a thought where they said, you know what, this might fail, but we've already put $1 million into it, of $100 million into it. Let's just put $100 million more into it. I'm sure it'll work now. Look, there is a point where you have to say, this is just inflation of the price tag here. Like, it's great that our developers are being paid to do their fucking job, but at the same time, do we really need a $200 million hero shooter? No. Do we really need a $500 million extraction shooter from the people who made Halo? No. Stop ballooning the price tag of these games. Be more realistic with these live service games. Know that they're most likely not going to succeed as well as other live service games that already are doing these things for a lower price tag and possibly for free to play, right? And also have the player base already established. You are not going to steal 5 million players from Overwatch for Concord. It was never going to happen no matter how good Concord was. People are still going to go back to Overwatch, back to Marvel Rivals, back to whatever, right? Same thing with any Battle Royale game. You make a Battle Royale game, name any single one. There was that wrestling Battle Royale game, the dodgeball one, right? Any of these games. You are not going to steal the majority of the player base from Fortnite and keep that player base. Maybe some people will come over and play and be like, this is pretty fun, and play it, but they're not, most of them are not going to stay, and if they are going to stay, they're not going to really want to pay money for a season pass or whatever, right? Especially if there's a price to entry. Arc Raiders somehow got away with this with a $40 price tag, right? They somehow did it. But most games that have a price tag of however much, $20 to $40, how much they're price tagging it at, and then they also have season passes and other and cosmetics and in-game currency on top of it, those games are going to more than likely fail. Do not throw $500 million into Marathon, but then also put in microtransactions, season passes, fucking bullshit, right? Make the game fucking free. That is how you get start a player base and have them buy the season pass if the game is good enough. You don't just start with a $40 price tag and say that's going to make the money. It's not. It's not. And once again, you are not going to steal the Arc Raider players and have them come over the Marathon and be like, this is the best thing ever. Why would I ever go back to Arc Raiders? No. Do you know what's going to happen? The people are going to possibly come over for the $40 price tag, most likely wait for a sale or for the game to be free for a weekend, play it then and say, nah, I'm good. I'm going back to Arc Raiders. I'm going back to Helldivers. I'm going back to Apex Legends. You are not going... These companies think that live service games are too big to fail. They'll never fail. But what happened? Big AAA companies invested all their fucking time and money into these live service games. And what did Sony get? One live service game that actually worked out, which is Helldivers 2. One out of how many games were they working on? We know about The Last of Us one. We know about the God of War one. We know about Marathon. We know about Concord. What else don't we know about that companies were wasting their fucking time with? Whoa! That gets my blood boiling. That gets my blood. It's not just the fact that these are like games that should be free or they, whatever. Like this is the matter of fact that we're putting companies, we're putting development teams on these games. We're wasting their time. And then the developers get blamed for the game being bad. Sony goes, oh, this game is bad, or this game isn't selling. It's probably because of developers. So let's lay all of them off, right? Let's shut that studio down, right? This is a gratuitous cycle that happens over and over and over again where, boom, developer gets shoveled a bunch of money and Sony goes, or whoever, AAA publisher, whatever, says, all right, here you go. You have the money. Make us a good game. And then, oh, surprise, surprise, the game doesn't work out as well as you thought it was going to. So now you're losing $100 million, let's say. And let's say you put $500 million into something. You got $100 million in return. $100 million is not a small sum of money. It's actually a pretty big sum of money for a lot of people, right? But because you put $400 million more dollars into that game, it's a failure. It's a failure, and you're never going to make that money back through season passes and DLC and cosmetics. It's just not going to add up that quickly as they want it to. Destiny 2 has the leniency because it is such a legacy game, right? It's been around for so long. You do have that established player base all the way from the first game, right? But what we saw with its slow decline, that less and less people were carrying, less and less people are buying the DLC, less and less people are staying around for the big updates. You obviously have your core player base. Every game, no matter how bad or small it is or whatever, is going to have its core fan base. Like, there were people playing Concord up until that server shut down, right? People who were fans of that game. I'm sure there are people who are playing Spellcasters up until that game gets shut down on June 19th, which I totally forgot to talk about this, by the way. I kind of went off on my own thing here. But that's the thing, though, right? You have all this shit piling up on top of itself, and these companies, they just don't want to admit that 1 in 10 online games that are online service games, live service games, make it. And the other 9 games don't. They get shut down within a year, sometimes sooner. Like this game, 3 months. So I will say, invest in your companies, invest in your developers, but put them on something that's actually going to make you money. Don't overspend on these things either, because no matter how good a game is, like Soros or whatever, if you put $300 million into that game, it's probably not going to make $300 million back unless it's Grand Theft Auto or a big IP, right? But for the most part, you're putting out something, it's probably not going to make that money back at this point. Maybe eventually over time, but if you're looking at day one sales, you sell 1 million copies for $60 a piece or $70 a piece, the math's not going to add up, and it's going to be marked as a failure because you put too much money into it. And these gaming budgets are some of the problem, right? Is the gaming budgets have just ballooned in these outrageous things that are never going to make their money back. But that's the other thing too, is like these publishers are like, well, of course it's going to make $500 million easy because we're Sony or we're Xbox or we're whatever. Of course it's going to make its money back. People love us. And then you come to realize, like, oh, I guess, I mean, yeah, people still love us, but it's not making a lot of money. And that's the other thing too, is like, of course they couldn't put Sony couldn't put Marathon out for free because they had to make money back. They were in the hole so much money. It would be impossible for them to do a free-to-play version of Marathon because they would be losing a lot of money still. So that's that. I mean, sorry I didn't read the statement from Quantic Dreams. At this point, what does it matter? Let's move on here to, this is like a part of the news that I was just talking about. But Destiny 2 is finally ending its support after 9 years. Bungie is going to focus on something different. So they didn't say exactly what this next thing was going to be, but most people are guessing that they're going to essentially keep Marathon up and running and getting new stuff in Marathon, much like they did for Destiny, right? And maybe there will be a Destiny 3 in the future. Maybe there will be something new from Bungie in the future that's completely different. But as of right now, they are ending support for Destiny 2, which means I think that means that the servers are going to still be up, and they're probably going to put a lot of the content, the legacy content, back in the game just for people to experience and whatnot. But I think the main problem that happened with Destiny 2 is essentially, it was too big to fail at one point, and what had happened was they kept taking content out of the game. They would put something into the game, like one of the first DLCs for the game, and then down the road they would take that DLC out and replace it with something else, and you couldn't play that DLC anymore. So you would buy a season pass to play the DLC, but then once that season pass is up and they start adding more things, that DLC gets taken out. The bosses get taken out, the raid bosses get taken out and switched out, and those things don't come back. And I think that's one thing that really irked people about Destiny 2 was the fact that, like, hey, I paid for whatever the update was called, right? I paid for that DLC or that season pass, and now I can't play the content that I paid for because it's just gone. They just took it out of the game. You can't go to the moon anymore they took the moon out or whatever. I don't know exactly. I haven't played Destiny 2 in a very long time. But essentially, Bungie said, "Hey, we're moving on to something new. We're doing whatever." And like that's fine. You know, a new beginning, incubating their next game or games with an S. I just at this point, I'm a bit concerned because we keep seeing this $3.6 billion be brought up here or not that I mean that's what Sony bought them for, but we keep seeing that price tag come up of like the $2 billion that was lost from buying Bungie. And you just wonder, like, are they going to make a skeleton crew out of Bungie to work, keep working on Marathon? Will Bungie still be a company in 5 years? Will Bungie actually start working on something new, something single player, something multiplayer? What's it going to be? We don't know. But the problem is that Bungie has lost so much money for the company. I don't know if Bungie will be a company or at least be owned by Sony in the next couple of years. Sony may try to sell them, or they may just cut them off. We'll see how Marathon does, though. Similar news, once again, we're not going to run the news card because this is similar news in the same vein of things. Destruction All-Stars, which was a PS5 launch title, has been delisted and the online servers have been completely disabled because of ongoing technical issues with the game. Now, if you don't know, Destruction All-Stars was a demolition derby type game where you had these hero characters. You could jump out of their car and get into another car if their car got destroyed, etc., etc. I thought the game was fun, but we go back to another live service trope here, or a criticism of Sony doing live service games. The fact of the matter is you had to pay $40 for this game originally, right? I think eventually they made it cheaper or at least maybe even free to play at one point. But the problem is that this was a PlayStation launch title. You had to pay $40 for it. It was a pretty bare bones live service game. They didn't really have a roadmap for it at the beginning. And it didn't really have the type of gameplay that's going to keep you super entertained, right? I feel like they designed this game to be a cash cow, and it ended up just kind of being a bit of a nightmare for them. Now, it's great that it lasted this long. I mean, this is we're talking 5 years later at this point that it was still available to, or at least you could playable, which in this economy is a pretty long time. But also at the same time, like, yeah, this is a first-party Sony game that lasted longer than Concord, but it's still being shut down unceremoniously because the servers were taken offline pretty suddenly. And they came out in a post and said, due to ongoing technical issues, the multiplayer services for Destruction All-Stars on PS5 consoles shall remain offline, and the game will no longer be available. So the servers were shut down on November 25th, but the so the servers are going to remain fully shut down, but the single-player gameplay will remain playable for returning players. However, functionality and player experience may be impacted due to server shutdown. I'm sure this is something that has been on the cards or in the works for PlayStation for a while. But yeah, the game is delisted, so now you can't even like really buy it. I don't think you can. Well, I mean, you should be able to download it if you already have it in your library, of course. But yeah, just once again, just a symptom of live service game trying too hard with a live service game, pumping too much money into it. Skeleton Crew on Destruction All-Stars wasn't able to keep up with the technical issues that were going on with the game. Obviously, there was something going on. I'm wondering if it was a security thing, like maybe there was something going on with the security thing there. But that is that. So there you go. Let's move on to the showcases. All right, so we have two showcases coming up. One of them is the State of Play, and the other one is the Xbox Games Showcase. These are two first-party showcases from two of the biggest names in the gaming landscape. So the State of Play is going to be on June 2nd, and it's going to have 60-plus minutes of games. Whether these are all going to be interesting games is yet to be seen, but we are going to get a healthy amount of Wolverine, which is still slated to come out later this year, which I am very excited for. The State of Play is going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. British Standard Time, and 6 a.m. Asian Time tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what to expect here. I'm sure we're gonna see, the staples here, like Wolverine, of course. Fair Games, I guess, is one of them. People are saying the new Horizon Hunter game. Marvel Token Fighters sounds about right. Maybe Intergalactic. Well, maybe that might be like the ending thing, Intergalactic. And maybe we'll see a God of War game. I don't know. But as of right now, though, that is confirmed for June 2nd. Now, we also have an Xbox Xbox Showcase coming. Here is the times and date here. So we have on June 7th, the Xbox Games Showcase is going to happen. The showcase is going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. In the UK, it's going to be 6 p.m. In Asia, it's going to be 2 a.m. If you want to check that out. It looks like Asha is going to be front and center for this one, which I think is good because she has kind of been a positive driving force for Xbox right now, and showing face in the showcase I think is going to look good for her. Obviously, Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond were in the forefront of these Xbox showcases as well. We'll see how charismatic Asha is. Yeah, I mean, I do have high hopes for this Xbox showcase. We know that there's going to be a Gears of War E Day Direct after the event, so don't expect Gears of War during it. There's going to be probably a whole hour of E Day information afterwards, which is probably what I'm the most excited about because, call me what you want, I'm still a bit of a Gears of War fan, But apparently the showcase is going to last 2 hours, so like I said, it's going to be an hour of Gears of War, hour of showcases here. Xbox has a lot of studios under its wing. I'm sure we'll see a lot of different things here. Probably the next Call of Duty, probably Halo Combat Evolved, Campaign Evolved, probably Fable, as it says right here. But there's also a lot of other things as well, like that Clockwork game and Judas and stuff like that. Maybe we'll see all these things. Maybe we won't see any of it. Maybe there'll be a couple of world premieres. I'm sure there will be a couple of world premieres. But I'm actually a bit more excited for the Xbox Game Showcase as opposed to the State of Play. That's just me personally, and that's just how things have been going right now. Xbox just has a better presence on the gaming landscape right now over Sony. I'm sure I'll still get excited about things that they show during the State of Play, but yeah, I digress. Also in the same vein of things, Call of Duty has put out a statement before the Xbox Showcase happened, or I should say Infinity Ward has put out a statement. They also put out this little video as well. It's fine. It is what it is. I wanted to read the statement they put out, though, because this might be one of the most cringe statements I've heard in quite a while. Oh, man, I'm going to cringe just reading this. We are Infinity Ward. We build visceral, immersive combat experiences that hit different. Just a little bit of autofellatio here. As a new chapter begins for our studio, we're focused on what defines us: passion, precision, obsession, and unrelenting drive to make the best entertainment in the industry. Our next big game is the result of that mindset. Determined, bold, relentless, built by a team pushing every detail, every system, every moment to its limit. On behalf of everyone at Infinity Ward, we're proud of what we've been building and excited to finally start sharing it with you. Mark and Jack, studio heads, Infinity Ward. This is so cringe. Like, did they really think that this was going to get everyone hyped? I mean, I'm sure there's probably someone out there who's like, yeah, but like, fuck, man. Like, this is about as cringe as those death quotes from like Modern Warfare 2 or whatever. Like, passion, precision, obsession, unrelenting drive. Like, what is this, a grind set podcast? Like, what are we fucking doing here? Determination, boldness, relentlessness. Like, fuck, dude. Like, these are words that you are throwing into a salad here, and they're not mixing, because none of this relates to Infinity Ward, none of this relates to Call of Duty, and surely none of this relates to Black Ops 7. Maybe you could make the argument like, yeah, there's a couple things here that kind of relate to the Modern Warfare series in general, but for the most part, like, I think the broader Call of Duty landscape is not super high on the Modern Warfare series right now. I think the best regarded one from the current run of Modern Warfare is the original one for a lot of people, even though I enjoy the second and third game from a pure like SLOP standpoint. the thing the main thing here is that, like, yeah, you are Infinity Ward. You're fucking cringe as fuck though for posting this. You posted this on your main account. What the fuck? What are we doing here? We are Infinity Ward. Have you ever seen that this guy, he does reels and I think he does TikToks as well, where he dresses up as like an otaku, like a weeaboo. And he has like the red glasses, and he does these videos of like average GameStop interaction, and he does like that voice where he's like, "We are Infinity Ward. We build visceral, immersive combat experiences that hit different," like something like that. That's what I picture. That's what I picture while reading this. That is the person who is making this statement right now, and it's cringe. It's cringe. It's not needed. Just say, hey, we're excited to show you what's next for Infinity Ward. That's all you fucking need. That's all you need. You don't need this word soup, this random adjectives thrown in here. You don't need that. It's Call of Duty, bro. It's not that serious. It's not that serious. I do understand that they got to hype Call of Duty back up after Black Ops 7 was pretty poorly received all around. But you don't need to go that deep into the cringe. You can just make a general statement, and I'm sure most people will be very excited to play the next Call of Duty, because at the end of the day, even no matter how poorly a Call of Duty game is received, it'll still sell well. It'll still have a pretty healthy player count. It'll still make money for the most part. Right? Black Ops 7 still made millions of dollars. You know, it wasn't a great game, but it still made millions of dollars. People are still playing it right now. People are still probably buying skins in it right now, even though they're really annoyed by the types of skins they're getting. I'm sure the Season Pass still sells pretty well, too. This goes back to live service games. What makes a good live service game? Well, apparently Call of Duty can just sell it for $70 with a Season Pass, with all the cosmetics, with all the microtransactions, and be fine. It's the exception to the rule. I don't make the rules. So don't ask me why this works for Call of Duty but doesn't work for another game. I don't know. It's kind of fucked up. It really kind of is. All right, another piece of news. All right, The Witcher 3 is getting a new DLC after 12 years since the last one. That is right. In a live stream from the developers at CD Projekt Red, they revealed that The Witcher 3 is going to be getting one last DLC before The Witcher 4 eventually comes around. But yeah, this is going to be the third expansion for The Witcher 3, called Songs of the Past, and is coming in 2027 to the PS5 and next-gen consoles, not last-gen. So the DLC is described as follows. Songs of the Past will return players to the role of legendary monster slayer Geralt of Riviera. Oh, thank God. I thought they were going to make you someone else. For a brand new adventure when it launches in 2027. Okay, that was a real nothing statement. I shouldn't have even read that. Yeah, so, CD Projekt Red, they're working on a couple of other things as well. But this is pretty major. I don't know how far along they are in developing this, but it seems like they've put Cyberpunk on the back burner to make a new Witcher DLC, probably just to get people ready for the next one. I feel like Witcher 4 is still a couple of years away at this point. I feel like we won't see more about that until next year at the least, and I don't think we'll get the game until 2028 or 2029, and that's me being generous. And finally for today, coming soon to a PlayStation Plus subscription near you. The June 2026 essential games have been announced, and they are Grounded Fully Yoked Edition, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, and Warhammer 40k Darktide. These will be available to download on June 2nd if you so desire. Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a collection of games. I think Grounded is going to be your best value here if you like survival crafting games. This one's pretty highly regarded. Pretty crazy too that Grounded is owned and published by Xbox. So this is the first Xbox game that is a part of the PlayStation Plus Essentials program. So that's interesting to say the least. I'm sure this deal was in the works long before the new CEO got in place. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2. It's a good brawler, arcade brawler. I mean, I don't really have too much negative to say about it, other than like the roguelite mode is a bit annoying. But it's fine. I think it works well. I don't think it's anything too crazy though. And then Warhammer 40k Dark Tide. This is kind of like the Vermintide games, where instead of it being rats, you're fighting like zombies or something like that. It's fine. It's not one of these games that like I'm gonna like scramble out of my bed to go play. But with a group of people, it's probably pretty fun. I thought it was just kind of like a kind of meh experience, but that's just me. So yeah, I think in general for this month, not a crazy big deal here. People who want to play these games probably already bought them a long time ago at this point. But if you're looking for something new, maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, I guess it's not too bad of a month. But the other problem is too, like I've played 2 out of these three games, and I'm not really interested in playing Grounded because I'm not a big survival crafting kind of person. But of course there are, there are people who probably want to play those games. Like it's not like they don't want to play the games ever. But yeah, there you go. All right, cool beans. Let's move on to the final part of the show. There's no Jeopardy today. I did not have time to make a Jeopardy board, but let's move on to the question of the pod. We have one question left. Boy, this interactive podcast is getting less and less interactive by the week. General Kanubi says or asks, if you created a game, what kind of game would that be? Genre, single player, multiplayer, audience, etc. If I created a game. So, I've always thought about making a game, right? But I've never like been serious about it, right? But if I made a game, it would probably be something in the same vein as like your Shadow of Mordor or something like that. Something where it's just like hack slash, cut an orc's head off with a fucking sword. Like that's all I fucking want. Like when I was a kid, I had this really grandiose idea that was a Lord of the Rings kind of idea, where it would be like, almost like Lord of the Rings Conquest in a way, where you just kind of like fought every faction, had these like really brutal kill animations, fight Mumma kill, fight, ghost soldiers, fight wild men, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of got that with the Third Age, right? And Conquest, of course. But, something like a bit more visceral, something a bit more like cool, like Shadow of Mordor, right? If I was going to create a new game off the top of my head right now, like what genre would I want it to be in? Probably a platformer, right? Probably a cartoony platformer. Something that's not like super crazy, right? Probably not something that's like going to be super off the wall, right? But something that's unique, probably has a unique art style to it. Music, gotta have great music, gotta have amazing music. Co-op, I think is a must for a lot of these games now. And then, the audience would probably be maybe a bit more of a younger audience, right? Kind of like but like a lot of times I like to do a mixed audience. Like I like to have it be made for kids, but be able to be played by adults and not be super bored, right? And so like platformers are kind of a way to do that, where you have like a baseline, like, okay, pretty easy to grasp, whatever, right? Build on top of that. And then have kind of like what Mario Odyssey or Donkey Kong or whatever does, where it's like you have like the base game and it's good, it's fun, playable. But then after the credits, you get like the harder level, like Kirby in the Forgotten Land, right? You have the harder levels where it's like more difficult, something going on. So that's kind of the game that I envision in my head, of like a fun platformer that gets brutal after a certain point, but still playable for kids. Like they can still play up until the end, but if they want the extra challenge, boom, there you go, you have an extra challenge at the end there. So yeah, that is that. Thank you for the question, appreciate that. Don't forget, folks, here's my call to action. In the Discord, you can suggest topics for the show. If you have a certain topic that you want me to cover, I will most likely cover it at this point because we have no topic suggestions. If you want to ask questions for the podcast, we have a channel created for that. If you want to suggest themes for Jeopardy, boom, bada bing, right here. You can suggest things. If you want to join the podcast, I have a waiting room for you. Yes, you. You can join the podcast. Talk to me about any topic that you want. I post the list of topics before each episode we do. So you can join the podcast if you just tell me that you're in the waiting room. If you want to join for Jeopardy, which people do, you can also do that as well. It's just a more quick way of doing all of that. All right. Yeah, I think that that about wraps it up for today, folks. A nice, meaty episode, 2.5 hours. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, I'd say. But that'll do it for today. I really appreciate everyone for swinging by the live stream today and checking out the show. Once again, if you missed the live show, you can always check out the podcast. The VOD is pretty much available from the get-go on Twitch and YouTube. I usually try to make those public as soon as the show is over and processing is done on the videos. Or if you want to catch up, the Spotify and Apple Podcast versions usually come up about a few days later, depending on how quickly I am at editing the podcast, the little bit that I need to edit it for the audio versions. But the video does go to those versions as well, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's about that. If you want to check out anything else I do, it's all at Yemi the Ferret, Film Freaks with a Z. We talk about movies. I think that's about it. All right. Once again, thank you to everyone who came by the stream, anyone who's lurking, chatting, etc. Do appreciate that. Also, thank you once again to anyone who shared their thoughts in the chat as well. I do skim the chat while I'm talking, but I'm not always going to respond to people because I'm trying to keep my thoughts in order. And if I respond to someone, then I'll lose track of my placement. But y'all understand. Also, thank you again for the raid from the Untitled Gamer while we were talking here. Appreciate that too. All right, folks, have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you all once again. Sayonara.